Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video, and this is my late season preview and predictions for this upcoming 2023 Supercars season. So of course this weekend, of course, the first round, at the Newcastle Street Circuit. By this time this video goes out, probably the first qualifying session has probably already been done. So basically, some of the predictions I would have done for this weekend are probably pretty much old now. So let's get into it. As usual, I am already. I forgot to turn my fan off, so of course I'm gonna have problems with me notes here. So let's start off with of course this year we have new cars. We have new cars this year with the Gen 3 cars. We got the new Chevy Camaro. We got the new Ford Mustang. Which the builds of the cars were from the Camaro were in charge were Triple Eight were in charge of building them, and then Dick Johnson Racing were in charge of building the Ford Mustangs. The fact about them is there's been a 67% aerodynamic downforce cut on the cars compared to the previous generation of supercars. So simply put, they can just make passing a lot more easier and easier to follow people, follow the other car. The minimum weight has decreased from 1,400 kilos to 1,335 kilos, and it's a 95 kilo weight minimum for the driver and seat combination. It is those that is of course some facts about the Gen 3 car. Not much. I'll go in a later video. I'll go into more in depth during the year about the Gen 3 car. In a later video during the season. So yeah. Oh, and I also forgot to mention as well, I'll be talking also about Super 2 and Super 3 as well. So let's firstly start with our beloved one car team, Blanchard Racing, aka Team Cool Drive. They have a new driver on board this season in Todd Hazelwood, replacing Tim Slade, who has gone over to Premier Air Racing. I'll get to in a bit. They were actually one of the first. The first to unveil their new Gen 3 car this year. I think it was in late January. Something like that. I'm trying to remember when it was. I think it was in late January when they unveiled their new car, which looked fantastic, by the way. Tim Slade, yeah, he did have a very good season. A very good season there. Obviously, he ended up finishing 11th in the championship. 11th in the championship on that one. He of course had the best rate. His best finish was 4th in 2 races at Albert Park for the Australian Formula One Grand Prix round. And was very consistent with his finishing position, with only just the one DNF of the year. So big shoes to fill for Todd. I think they'll take another step and maybe not necessarily be the leading Mustang, but maybe be alongside maybe the fourth, maybe like third, fourth, maybe fifth best. Outside of the big guns in Waters, De Pasquale, Davidson, and possibly on any given, on the odd occasion, James Courtney. But I think for me, I think for Todd, I believe that I think to improve on his season, his one-off season return at MSR, I believe So I think Hazelwood, I think Todd will go well, as better than what everyone expects at BRT. Moving on pretty quickly to Premier Racing. I just realised I didn't add anything from the official preseason test at Sydney Motorsport Park. Mostly because we've got me happy, because basically they were doing a lot of parity testing afterwards, and all the 14s complained because the top 8 in the Camaro, top 8 in fastest times in that test were all Chevy Camaros. Can you hear that, everybody? Can you hear that? That's the sound of all Ford supporters just fainting. You can tell I hate Ford. You can tell I hate them. But moving on to Premier Racing, they have retained James Golding, who did rather well in his spell there after replacing Gary Jacobson mid-season. Some pretty outstanding performances from James. Most notably when for the whole of the whole first half of the race, the Bathurst 1000, he and Dylan O'Keefe were basically inside the top 10, pretty much all of like 2/3 of the race, and then basically other problems basically meant they dropped down the order. But they really impressed, and then basically Golding qualifying inside the top 10 at the Gold Coast and Adelaide, obviously qualifying 6th at Adelaide, and then of course top 10, and then the top 10 finish for Golding at Sandown, one of the races at Sandown. But his teammate is changed. Out is Chris Piffer, and in is formerly from the team I just mentioned before, BRT, is Tim Slade. Obviously looking to go to the next level after being a couple of years with BRT with some forms of success. Just to mention about Premier Racing, I think for me, these regulations these new Gen 3 cars, I think have come at the wrong time for the team, in my opinion. And what I mean by that is they really got their act together in the second half of the season, where we saw top 10 finishes from top 10 starting positions from Golding, top 10 finishes from both Golding and Chris Piffer during the second half of the season. As I said, Golding ran at the Golding O'Keefe car. It ran mostly at the front throughout most of the Bathurst 1000. And they were starting to get their act together mostly. I'm worried that these new cars are probably basically taken back to square one, and trust me, I haven't looked at any practice results because I'm recording this on late Saturday morning, just hopefully I finish this before the Channel 7 telecast on Saturdays I'm recording this gets on. So yeah, but I think for me, I think they'll just. I think it'll be. I think at the start of the year, I think they'll come back to square one, and it won't be until next year, maybe 2024, we'll see them maybe progress into like in the middle, from maybe like a back marker team to perhaps the middle of the field team, like alongside, you know, like Brad Jones Racing, Erebus, along those lines. Maybe Team 18 as well. Maybe Erebus is probably a bit more far fetched, but I believe I won't be surprised at the start of the year it'll be back to a square one type of first part of the year, where basically they sort of try and get their act together again with this new Camaro, and then basically build from there in 2024 into future years. And also fun fact also about Premier Racing from last year. Golding was the only one out of Piffer and Jacobson, even though Jacobson only competed in the first half of the season before he was axed from the team after Hidden Valley. He was the only one who started inside the top 10, and he did it 6 times. So that he was definitely much better in qualifying. I'm probably expecting him to be, if I were to choose out of Slade or Golding who would to get used to the car quicker, I would have to say Golding, obviously because of him already being at the team for half a season, and obviously, and then obviously, he's a good qualifier and that sort of stuff. So I don't see any hopes really for Premier Racing. Matt Stone Racing, we'll move on to. They have retained Jack LeBrock for this season after a bit of a mediocre 2022, where, as you can see, he finished 21st in the championship, but he had some very good highlights, including starting on the front row at Tasmania in one of the Tasmanian races, and finishing 6th in one of the races at the Darwin Triple Crown. Other than that, not much really to tell really for Jack on that front. A bit of a disappointing season, to be honest. But he is joined by one of the first rookies we're going to be mentioning here in this video, and that is Cameron Hill, who has moved from the now defunct Triple Eight Super 2 program into Matt Stone Racing, who he drove with Chris Piffer at the Bathurst 1000 last year, which he did. It did sort of not bad really on that front. What are my expectations for MSR? Really not much. Like they could. I won't be surprised if they surprise a few teams like they did last year. Like maybe have the odd top 5 start. Maybe have the odd front row start like Jack LeBrock did at Tasmania, as I said last year. Or maybe they grab the odd top 5 finish in a race. I'm not necessarily saying that they'll be that terrible, but I believe for MSR, I think I can't speak English at the moment. I think for me, the expectations surrounding MSR are pretty much like I said about Premier Racing. I believe that they'll take a bit of a step back and maybe get some time to get used to this Gen 3 car, and then obviously build into the season from there. Move on to Brad Jones Racing. They have retained their I think it's the first team I've mentioned that have retained its whole driver lineup from last year, with Jack Smith, Andre Heimgartner, Bryce Ballwood, and Macaulay Jones. Quite clearly, the best out of that quartet was clearly Andre Heimgartner. I mean, it was clear when it was announced that Andre would move from the Groves to BJR. I was sort of a bit optimistic, but not too much, because I was sort of optimistic, but not too much, in a way of basically about how he performed. I mean, but he performed better than probably some people would have thought. I mean, looking at the stats here, as the whole four car team in 2022 combined, Brad Jones 25 times out of the 4 drivers, 25 top 10 starting positions, 20 of them were from Andre Heimgartner. 26 top 10 finishes for the team. Again, most of them from Andre Heimgartner. So the big question here is will the others stack up? Now, obviously, Forward and Macaulay Jones had their best qualifying and in the finishes as well. I think for me, as I'll talk about Jack Smith. I mean, Jack Smith. If you guys have known, I've not been very high on Jack Smith since he came into the supercar. I still consider to this day. I still think to this day. My argument is valid that he shouldn't have earned a supercars drive in the first place. The only reason why he's in supercars is not because of his talent, and it's highly unfair that people like Zach Best, who do have the talent to be in supercars, are stuck in Super 2 while he doesn't have the talent, and he hasn't been in the top 5 in the championship of the Super 2 series year that he was in, and he's still in supercars. That's just my opinion. I've not been very highly rated of him at all. In my opinion, we talk about the others. Will the others, stack up with him? In a way, quite possibly. It could, maybe in the odd race or two, but throughout the entire season, will someone like Forward stack up with him now that he's in his second year at the team? Possibly. There's a possibility of that sort of thing happening, and also with Mako, like he proved at Albert Park when he qualified, when he had his best qualifying of the year and best finish of the year of 8th and a 6th, that he can grab the odd top 10 finish and be close enough to the top 5. That is something. And hopefully he builds on this, and hopefully maybe he has I don't know, like 5 top 10 starts, and then same again with the top 10 finishes. Because I think he has the talent, obviously, not just because he's Brad Jones' son, but obviously I think he does. I think deep down, I believe he does have the talent to be consistent in supercars. Not so much he runs at the front every single week, but be amongst the midfield pretty much, middle of the pack pretty much for Macaulay Jones. I think Andre's definitely going to be the leader of that team again. I won't be surprised if he finishes close to the top 5 in the championship. I have no idea. Ironically, I said that because I was saying that because obviously he topped the timesheets in the preseason test. It was just basically nothing really for that. So I believe for me, so I think it'll be another good year for BJR. Moving on to Team 18. Again, they've retained their driver lineup of Mark Winterbottom in the wonderfully coloured DeWalt livery, which absolutely looks spectacular. It's fantastic, by the way. And Scott Pye in the Hino car. Obviously, last year it was a bit of a mediocre season. I mean, in terms of, you know, on the one side of the garage, you had Winterbottom, who was semi-regularly being inside the top 10, around the top 10, pretty much every single race. He finished every single race the year, and he had 16 top 10 finishes during that season, with the best finish of 5th. On the other hand, Scott Pye had a pretty inconsistent year, but he did have some highlights, good highlights throughout the year. Obviously, starting on the front row for the second to last race of the season at Adelaide, and finishing 4th in one of the races at Albert Park. So, what are my thoughts on them for this year? I think they'll take. I think they'll take a massive step in 2023. I think they'll be one of those that will massively benefit from these new Gen 3 cars. For some reason, and Winterbottom, some people, rumours are that Winterbottom is absolutely hungry to at least win. To win the Team 18's first race, and I don't know if could we see it. If the odd crazy race happens where you see all the big guys go out and have mediocre sort of races, there could be the possibility that Winterbottom could be there at the right place at the right time to basically go and steal a win, which Team 18 has come close in the last few years, but not quite close enough. I think this year is going to be different. I believe that they will, in fact, I think it's one of my bold predictions. I think that they will win. I think that they will win a Supercars. They will win a Supercars race this year. I don't know when, but I think that they will win a race at some point. Before we move on to the next team, we should talk about the calendar. Talk about the calendar this year, because it has reduced from 13 events to 12. So we're running through them. So the first race, obviously, is this weekend at Newcastle. Then afterwards, they go to Albert Park for the Melbourne Super Sprint, which is in conjunction with the Rolex Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix. Then they move to Wanneroo, the Wanneroo Raceway, where it's renamed actually now is renamed Wanneroo this year. For the Perth Super Sprint, it's not a super night race, which is unfortunate, but yeah. Then they moved to Tasmania at Symmons Plains for the Tasmania Super Sprint. Then up to the top end at Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin for the annual Darwin Triple Crown. Then off to North Queensland in Townsville for the Townsville 500. Then off to SMP for the annual Sydney Super Night weekend. Then it's off to Tailem Bend in Adelaide for the OTR Super Sprint. Then the first the Enduros, the Sandown 500 is back. Finally, it's back as an Enduro, as a precursor to the Bathurst 1000. And then, of course, the next race is the big one, the big one on the calendar, the Repco Bathurst 1000, which I so cannot wait to see these new Mustangs and these new Camaros just flying across the top of the mountain. It will be fantastic to watch. I won't be surprised if fans will come out in droves to see these new cars race around Bathurst. Then they head off to Surfers Paradise, on the streets of Surfers Paradise up at the Gold Coast for the Gold Coast 500, and the season wraps up on the streets of Adelaide for the Velo Adelaide 500. The facts I've put here amongst the calendar, of course, said the Newcastle Street Circuit returns for this weekend. No Super Night event in Perth, which as I said earlier, it was a bit disappointing, really, because more night races the better for me. Winton, strangely omitted from the calendar. Don't know why, but excuse me, omitted from the calendar. And of course, the mighty Sandown 500 returns. And the most obvious one, and the big elephant in the room with this calendar, in terms of this calendar, is there is no New Zealand round after what happened after announcing Pukekohe's closure, which is quite sad because believe it or not, if some of you guys don't know, is actually that circuit in 2006 is actually one of the first. It was actually the first Supercars race I've ever watched when I was young. That was in 2006. I remember rightly. That was around when Mark Scaife won his first round there at Pukekohe. First time he won a round there at Pukekohe. Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was a great circuit. I know both versions of the circuit, the old circuit, before the new turns, that sort of stuff, and the new one, when they added the 3 new turns down the back straight and that sort of stuff. It is great, and it's sad that it's going to be, it's not longer. Now the other big question is, because I think Supercars openly said that it's guaranteed that a New Zealand round will be coming back in 2024. But which will be one now? The most obvious one is Hampton Downs, and there's others like Taupo, Highlands Motorsport Park. To be honest, I know Hampton Downs is probably the most obvious one out of these ones. But I would love to see a round, see a New Zealand Supercars round at Highlands Motorsport Park. I've seen it. It looked immaculate. Just looks immaculate. And also the backgrounds too. I mean, you have the hills there in the background. It would just look absolutely unbelievable on TV, and it'll be, and I think it'll be great to see Supercars race around there. The only thing is maybe when they go over the bridge, with the bridge in the middle of the track, going over it, maybe that might be the issue. But here's stuff about that. So that was the 2023 calendar. Now moving on to the front half of the Supercars field, we'll start off with Erebus Motorsport, which they've also retained their driver lineup of Will Brown and Brody Kostecki. So of course, Erebus, they come off of this high from 2021, Will Brown winning at one of the SMP races. I think both drivers ended up finishing the top 10 in the championship in 2021. And we all thought they would take the next step and maybe be challenging the likes of Triple Eight, DJR and Tickford to be in the front amongst the front four, possibly, or front 5 if you count WAU. it didn't sort of turn out that way. Obviously, Brody Kostecki was a standout, finishing 7th in the championship, of course, claiming his first pole of his career in the second race of the season at Sydney Motorsport Park, and then obviously finishing and also finishing on the podium in second. But it was much different for Will Brown. I mean, it come off the high of 2021, winning his first race, and I think finishing top 10 in the championship. I might have to check that out after this video. But not so much. It wasn't a very good 2022, finishing 14th. In the championship. Even though he was a great qualifier, he started qualifying in the top 10. He qualified in the top 10 14 times, and finished inside the top 10 13 times in races. But it was, looking at his average, it was slightly the qualifying that let him down. His average qualifying was 13.2 compared to 12.9 in the race. A slight difference between qualifying and the race there. But I think for me, I think they'll, same as Team 18. I think they'll benefit more from these new Gen 3 cars. I think, and I think that they will get back to the winner's circle. If the right circumstance falls among them, I believe they'll be back in the winner's circle in 2023. In 2023, so look out for Brown and Kostecki in 2023, especially Brown rebounding from his terrible season in 2022, and then obviously he's not a good start to 2023. Obviously, not finishing any race in the first 3 races of TCR Australia Series. Moving on to Grove Racing. They've retained Supercars' favourite funny man, that being David Reynolds. Had a very good season, of course, finishing 8th in the championship. With him getting most of the top 10 starts and finishes for the team. But Lee Holdsworth wasn't that bad in his final season. Obviously, we all know he qualified second. He also qualified on the front row at Bathurst, obviously. And David Reynolds obviously qualifying on the pole 2 times last year at both Albert Park and at the Gold Coast. So I believe that Reynolds, but I believe Reynolds will benefit most from the second rookie in the field, and probably a rookie that is probably has been the most talked about in the last couple of years. That being Matthew Payne. Matthew Payne moving over from the Groves Super 2 team over to the Supercars team. For 2023, there was of course rumors that were swirling around after Heimgartner left the team in 2021 that there was possibility that Matt Payne was going to be driving that team in 2022. Obviously, it didn't happen. Obviously, they signed Lee Holdsworth. But obviously, I thought to myself. I knew instantly that the Matt Payne, if Matt Payne would to go to Supercars, it would not work because he only driven one Super 2 round before that, and I thought maybe move him up, maybe just a full season in Super 2 in 2022. And then move him up in 2023, which fortunately enough they did do. Of course they did do. So pretty high expectations for Matt Payne, there's been some speculation that basically that Matt Payne, the similarities between Matt Payne and Scott McLaughlin, pretty much. Where I won't be surprised if the odd race happens, maybe Matt Payne gets the odd podium, or maybe like Will Brown did in 2021 and get a shock win. You never know. With that, I won't be surprised about that. But I believe it's going to be. I think it'll be a big season. Like the previous row just mentioned, Team 18, Erebus, and the Groves will probably benefit most from this new Gen 3 from these new Gen 3 cars, in my opinion. So ones to watch out for, the Groves with Reynolds and young Matt Payne. Now moving on to the big guns. Moving on to the big guns. WAU. They've retained their driver lineup of Nick Percat and Chaz Mostert. But the big change is they've switched from Holden to Ford for this new 2023 season. So it was fair to say it was a contract. It was just like it reminds me a bit of Team 18 when I mentioned earlier. I mean, Mostert, he was a championship contender all year. Probably some races where he finished outside the top 10 let him down in the end. But he finished every single race. He finished on the podium 14 times. 14 times and won 5 races. One of those including the 1-2 finish in the second to last race of the season with Nick Percat at Adelaide, which is I still say it's one of the best moments of Supercars. One of the best moments of Supercars that year. Obviously, I'm a massive Red Lion fan. I'm not going to say the actual word because obviously they're not a part of it anymore. But yeah, but even though I did say it previously when they switched from that manufacturer to Ford. So he was pretty consistent and was in pretty much the title hunt all year, pretty much. Contending for second in the championship behind SVG. But Nick Percat, not so much. He moved from his high profile switch from BJR to WAU. With varied degrees of success. Obviously, he qualified inside the top 10, most notably at Albert Park, and then at the Bathurst 1000. And then obviously finished second at Adelaide. But other than that, it was not a very good year. I mean, he only finished 15th in the championship, which not surprisingly considering the last couple of second drivers that they've had. Him and Bryce Forward didn't do that much either, to be honest. But yeah, so it wasn't a pretty good season really for Nick. But I think with now in his second season back at the team, obviously, if you guys don't know, he does have a bit of history with this team back in the day in his Super 2 days and his early Supercars, full-time Supercars career. So I think his second season with the team, I think he'll be a bit more associated with it. And you might think to yourself, well, there's no Ford associations with Percat. Well, no, because previously, once upon a time, these two formerly were Formula Ford champions. Think Percat in, I think it was 2008, 2009, and then Chaz Mostert in 2010. So they do have a history with Ford. So even though, yes, buzz off for WAU moving to Ford with, but I believe that they will go well in 2023. moving on to our favourite competitive 4-car team, which is Tickford. They have retained James Courtney, Cameron Waters, and Tom Randall. Of course, Cam Waters ended up finishing run-up in the championship to Shane Van Gisbergen. Of course, he claimed the most pole positions in the series of last year with 10. He won 3 times, and of course podiumed 14 times, with the other 3 Tickford podiums being James Courtney. Speaking of James, obviously finishing 12th in the championship, with varied degrees of success really for him. And then obviously finishing second in one of the Perth Super Night races, and then starting 4th at the Bend and at one of the races in Adelaide. And then there was Tom Randall, who despite him finishing only 23rd in the championship, had some very good highlights throughout the year. Obviously, starting on the front row at the Bend, obviously that was demolished, but that was the same race where he stalled on the start grid and got clattered from behind by Andre Heimgardner, which took both of them out for that next race at the Bend. Then obviously finishing 8th at Sandown, and obviously qualifying the top 10 times, but only converted those into only 2 top 10 finishes. One of those, as I said, being at Sandown. So yeah, but you might think to yourself, what about the 4th car, the 56 car? Well, Jake Kostecki, he did perform reasonably well, but then there was rumours that were swirling around that there was the possibility that he would be sacked from the team, which eventually it was announced that he was sacked from Tickford, and his replacement is ironically the reigning Super 2 champion and previously from the Triple 8 Race Engineering stable, Declan Fraser. I was, when this first was announced, I was a bit shocked really, because I was like, why would Triple 8, I would understand why Triple 8, I would understand why Triple 8 Race Engineering would want to downsize their team, basically not be able to Super 2 team anymore. But why would they let someone like Declan Fraser go? But anyways, I think Tickford have got a big steal in the end. He might do well there. Obviously, learning a lot from his experienced teammates in Courtney, Waters, and of course Randall as well. But he's the same as everybody else in terms of the experience of these new Gen 3 cars. By the way, he's been through the ringer this pre-season. Obviously, he tested the car at Winton while he had tonsillitis, and then that turned into this massive illness. Well, not massive illness, but this illness that actually kept him out of the pre-season test at Sydney Motorsport Park, which meant their 4 co-drivers, James Moffat, Zach Best, and 2 others as well, and so on and so forth, had to test the 56 car for that test. He's okay now. He's gonna be there this weekend. So I think so I won't be surprised if Decker his expectations are pretty low for this one because he hasn't been in the car much. Other than that test day at Winton, he hasn't been in the car much. But I won't be surprised if he, if he basically, if he has a bit of a mediocre start to his Supercars career. I think by the time the early rounds finish, I believe he'll be more suited to the car. Now to the very pointy end of the Supercars field, we have Dick Johnson Racing. They've retained their driver lineup of Anton De Pasquale, and not only retained that driver lineup of Anton De Pasquale and Will Davison, but also they've announced recently that they've retained their enduro lineup of Tony D'Alberto, or should I say, reigning TCR Australia champion Tony D'Alberto, I should say, and Will's brother Alex. So I think last year, looking at the stats here, they took a bit of a step down. Obviously, that they had times, especially from Will, that they were pretty competitive. Obviously, of course, Will, winning 3 races last year, winning 3 races last year and claiming 9 poles, by the way, as well. But I think it was his, and the team themselves only had 2 DNFs, 1 each from De Pasquale and Davison, by the way. But I believe the main that stood out for me was the reason why De Pasquale finished ahead of Davison in the championship was in fact he had more top 10s with 28 compared to Will Davison with 24. I think that I hope I don't hope because I'm a Chevrolet fan, but hopefully it gets a bit closer. Because I believe we'll talk about Triple Eight and Shane and Gisbergen in a bit, but they've dominated a bit too often really for Supercars. So I hope that they hopefully teams like DJR and Tickford and WAU really take games with these Gen 3 cars and hopefully get closer to Triple Eight Racing. Speaking of Triple Eight, that's the final team we're going to be talking about. Triple Eight Race Engineering. Of course, having the 2-time reigning, defending Supercars champion in Shane Gisbergen, and one of the rookies of the year and one of the finds of the year, really when he won his first Supercars race and the final race of the year at Adelaide, was Brock Feeney. What could I say about Shane Van Gisbergen? There's not many words left to say from him. Of course, the stats show. Let me read you these ridiculous stats. 7 pole positions. 30 times he qualified in the top 10. 21 wins for the season. 27 times he finished on the podium. 31 times he finished in the top 10. Top 10, no DNFs. He finished in every single race. His average qualifying was 5.1 and average race finish was 3.5. What else is there to say about SVG? What else is there to say? He is undisputably currently right now the king of Supercars. We're in the middle, of course. We previously were in the Scotty McLaughlin era. Then we're in the Win Cup era, and so on and so forth. And previously, the Scaife era and all that sort of stuff. We are currently right now. Us Supercars fans are in the middle of the SVG era. We're in the middle of it, and I won't be surprised if he does these sort of stats again. I don't think he'll. I don't. But not. Let me correct myself. Not these sort of stats, but maybe like he gets about maybe like 12, 13 wins for the year. Because I'm definitely predicting that there will be more. That there will be more winners this year. More winners this year. More winners this year. But he's definitely undisputedly the title favourite. He's undisputed. He is the title favourite. He's advertised in every single TV ad. Every single TV ad for Channel 7, and I would assume also for Fox Sports as well. I would assume. He also So yeah, but the guy I believe that is, I think he'll have a breakout year this year, and that is possibly maybe finishing on the top three in the championship, and that's Brock Feeney, and he proved that he can handle the pressure in that final race. It was unbelievable from Brock. I mean, it wasn't fair when I said to myself before the season start, it will be unfair that people say that he'll win the title in his rookie year because nobody and I said to myself, don't be surprised if he finishes just inside the top 10. He finishes around 9th to 11th. I won't be surprised about that because ironically, his boss, who he ended up replacing with, by the way, in that Double A, Jamie Whincup, he also struggled in his first season at Triple A. And in his second season, he ended up being 3 points away from winning a championship. And then afterwards, he ended up winning title after title after title, and claiming pole position after pole after pole after pole, and then win after win after win. That's what he did. So I won't be surprised if Brock basically maybe finishes, I don't know, maybe a third, and maybe finishes a third, or maybe there could be a 888-1-2 in the championship. I won't be surprised by that. But I believe that I believe for me, I think he'll simply put, I believe he'll get his first pole. I believe this year, no doubt about that. I believe 888 will be at the top of the tree yet again. Just a quick mention to Super 2 and Super 3. Obviously, because they're going to be at 6 rounds this year: Newcastle, Perth, Townsville, Sandown, Bathurst, and at Adelaide. Most notable ones, obviously, 888 at Matt Stone Racing. Matt Stone Racing withdrew, basically or should I say, with Matt Stone Racing wise, Super 2 from Super 2. I'll talk to you about that in a bit. Of course, the big change, obviously, the new Gen 2 cars are going to be all across the Super 2s, and then Super 3 will have the car of the future cars from 2013 to 2017, and then also some of the Project Blueprint cars from 2003 to 2012. So looking at the lineups here for both Super 2 and Super 3, obviously the big ones that stand out, obviously. Zach Best was shafted out at Tickford. Obviously didn't have enough room to have 3 cars, mind you. And he is now at the Anson Motorsport car, which is basically, and the car, it's basically an ex-Fabian Coulthard DJR Team Penske car. So I won't be surprised if he does that. If he's dominant from the outset, to be honest. And then of course Aaron Love, obviously, it's about Aaron Love at the Blanchard Racing Team. Who am I going to guess that he's going to be Todd Hazelwood's co-driver for Sandown and Bathurst, and not going to be Tim Blanchard? I won't be surprised if that happens, to be honest. It'll be 50-50 whether Tim Blanchard, the team owner himself, drives with Todd, or it's going to be Aaron Love. It depends on if Aaron Love is a title contender for most of the season. Then of course you got WAU. Of course you got Ryan Wood and Zach Bates in that team. I was surprised that Jaden Ojeda was not a part of that team, because there was rumours as far back as 2020 or 2021 that they were planning on a full-time Super 2 entry for Jaden, but eventually that didn't happen. And he's not even in here, so I have no idea what the Supercars fraternity has done with Jaden Ojeda, but he's not even in Super 2 or Super 3, so I'm surprised by that. And then obviously, of course, Holden, obviously, let's not get into the Holden Super 3 drivers. Nissan, obviously, they're going to be in Super 3. Three well-known names. Firstly, Mason Kelly, the son of Todd Kelly, is going to be in this season. Cameron McLeod, who is, I believe, the son of Ryan McLeod, is going to be in the number 92. And a big name enters the Super 2, Super 3 category by the name of Johnson. That being the third generation Johnson. Jet is going to make his official Supercars debut, albeit in the Super 3, in the Team Johnson 117 Napa Auto Parts Nissan, which looks absolutely wonderful in the Nissan livery. In the Nissan livery. I'll do my predictions for both the season and for Newcastle very, very quickly. Of course, my champion, I believe, will be SVG. No other, really. Move on. So, it's probably by how far, really, to be honest. The biggest surprise, I think it'll be Brock Feeney. I think he will finish between second to third in the championship, I believe. Now he's in his second year now, even though with these new Gen 3 cars, I think he will climb up sort up that Supercars ladder and basically be closer to SVG in terms of the standings. Best rookie. By far it goes to Matt Payne. Obviously, I would have gone with Fraser, but he doesn't have much experience of the car in terms of pre-season. And then who is the other one? Cameron Hill. I don't see him. I think he'll do much, but I don't think he'll be anywhere close to near Matt Payne's level. So yeah. And I put here strange disappointment Tickford, which is strange considering when I get to my predictions for the Newcastle 500. I think they'll take a step down. I think they'll be a step below. I won't be surprised if Walkinshaw and Andretti United overtake them, and then I still think that the lone hand for them is probably still going to be Cam Waters. I believe that I think the likes of Courtney, Declan Fraser, and Tom Randall are just going to let the team down in the end in terms of the team's championship. So yeah, that's what I think in terms of that. The Newcastle 500 prediction. I think the race 1 pole. Because I think the race 1 qualifying, I believe, is going to be on right now as I speak. Probably as I speak, it's already over. But I haven't seen the results for qualifying yet. So race 1 pole will be Brock Feeney, and I might as well say this now. I think he'll claim pole and win the first race just to continue on his momentum from winning the final race of the season in Adelaide in 2022. He continue on his momentum and become the first winner of the Gen 3, first pole sitter and the first race winner of the Gen 3 era. Alongside the front row, I believe on the front row will be Chaz Mostert. I believe that the other podium places, I believe in second place I've put Cam Waters, and in third I've put Shane Van Gisbergen in there. The race to pole and front row, I've got Chaz Mostert on pole with SVG alongside him. And I think Cam Waters will get one back for Ford and win the second race with Shane Van Gisbergen and Chaz Mostert rounding out the podium there for the Sunday race. So that is pretty much the end of this video. I've pretty much gone. It's almost pretty much exactly an hour into this video. So yeah. So like this video. Share this to anybody who's a Supercars fan or a Holden fan or not Holden fan. I should not say that anymore. Chevrolet fan and a Ford fan. Comment down below who is your tip to win the Supercars Championship, or do you see other drivers that can compete with Shane Van Gisbergen? List them down below, and also by the way, how hyped is it to see this new car come in? How do you think it's going to go? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. And lastly, somewhere down there, click on the big red button which is labeled subscribe. But until next time, guys, I'll see you guys later, and wherever you may be, may the sun or the moon shine on you. I'm hoping it shines on someone that has a Chevy Camaro.